The days of Kotaku being relevant in the gaming industry are over, and they are desperate for clicks so that they can keep their jobs, but now they have put out a post titled Persona 5 Tactica tries to make up for the series' homophobia, and people are absolutely destroying them over their terrible take. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. So the article itself only just recently went up, and they are getting absolutely destroyed over this take. It says, I love Persona 5, but over the years, Atlus's stylish, supposedly socially conscious RPG hasn't loved me. Queer Persona fans know the series to be fraught, and even the most passionate among us treat it like the fun uncle who claims to love everyone and still says something extremely out of pocket each holiday. I figured Persona 5 Tactica, the tactical spin-off launching on November 17th, would follow all the previous games and find some way to throw a jab at queer people for no reason, but after years of feeling like one of my favorite series has been trying to push me out, it opened the door for me, if only for a moment. Now, when you are looking for something to be outraged about, if you are looking for something to offend you, you are going to find that, and that is what they are doing, because I have personally only ever heard people complain about Persona being homophobic like once or twice in the entirety of being on the internet, and when you really start searching the internet for people discussing this, there's really not a lot of threads or forum posts where people were discussing this. So if you found something to be upset by in Persona that you could take as, homophobic or, offensive, you're gonna find it, but that is with literally anything in life. It says, but years after feeling like one of my favorite series has been trying to push me out, it opened the door for me. We aren't going to get any big overarching story spoilers as I explain how, but a brief scene in Tactica's first chapter does require a little table setting. So they're talking about the Phantom Thieves, the teenage superhero vigilantes heading back into the supernatural world called the Metaverse. This time they're facing Marie, a tyrant bride who has repurposed an entire town to hold her dream wedding, and this serves to set up the scene where we're talking about it, a wedding. It's called The Ideal Marriage, and you can find it in the talk menu. It says that I went through a few stages of subverted expectations here, so hold my hand and let me walk you through. When a character asks the question, I fully expected my options to be limited exclusively to the women in the room, as that would reflect the original Persona 5's extremely limited view of romance. These spin-off games don't import your P5 saves, so games like Persona 5 Strikers find ways to make you who your paramour in the first game was, so you can experience a little continuity. But much to my surprise, it allowed for everyone in the room to be an option, including one of these characters who I have headcanoned as my Joker's requited crush since the first Persona 5 in 2017. So they are saying that while this game isn't good enough, and this game is homophobic in their opinion, you can still choose whatever gender romance you want. They have given players that option, but it's still not good enough for them. It says, the homophobia problem, though, is that it has always positioned itself as a story about standing up against oppressive forces in the name of standing up for the little guy crushed under their boots. The Phantom Thieves use their supernatural powers to fight crooks as small-time, as an abusive high school coach and climb up until they reach a major politician. The game tackles power imbalances, class issues, and corrupt law enforcement, but queer identity has always been its blind spot, even as it stumbles in advocating for victims of abuse by putting those same people through the same violence after the fact. It does at some point in its 100 plus hours take a stance. So they're saying it takes 100 hours to get anywhere good, to get where I feel comfortable with my character's identity, which is absurd. Nothing is ever good enough for these people. It says, but when it comes to how identity is a marginalizing factor, it has always been willing to shun or even point and laugh at queer people, men especially. Playing it as a gay man was an incredibly disheartening experience, as it both refused to let me go down a romantic path with any of my male friends and also bombarded me with assumptions of who Joker, and by extension myself, was in its dialogue. So they did change this, and again, they did give players more options, but it's not enough for them. And now they're going through why all of the Persona games are allegedly homophobic. You've got Persona 3 that has weird transphobic jokes, they say, and that they're curious to see them handled in Persona 3 Reload, aka they're really hoping that they're going to be removed and that content that they deem as too offensive isn't going to be in it. And they also say Persona 5 Tactica doesn't make good on the series excluding queer people, and it definitely doesn't fix that it made us the butt of the joke for almost 20 years. Oh no, they didn't do exactly what I wanted them to. They didn't put a content warning and apologize to me personally that there were a few jokes within the franchise's history that I was a little offended by. But Kotaku is getting absolutely destroyed over this article where all they do is moan and groan and whine and complain. This activist should have never put out this article, but you can tell that they are desperate for clicks, that they are desperate for some kind of attention because they need to keep their lights on, so they have to put out pieces like this, and they are not going over very well. People are saying things like, not everyone is gay. I know it's hard for you to admit. The TLDR is that Kotaku is mad that they had to play a straight character before and that it didn't take into account modern queer theory, which says everyone is a little gay. I completely understand, okay, that, Kotaku wanted more options in their games, so go and play a different game. There are so many titles out there that give you options, that let you choose same-sex romance if you want, that let you play as a male or a female, games that give you the freedom to choose dialogue and romance options and all of these different things, but instead they just hone in on something like Persona and they go, oh my god, it has such an offensive legacy and they need to change it and they need to alter it. And they're basically demanding that going forward, Atlas continues to push the limits and push the boundaries and do things better, like they mentioned in Persona 3. Oh my gosh, in Persona 3 Reload, they better get rid of these offensive jokes because I just can't accept humor in my games. I mean, it's clickbaity articles and rage bait articles like this that led to Jezebel's fate. I did talk about that recently, but their feminist sister site, Jezebel, recently was shuttered. They are no longer putting out the trash articles that they had for 16 full years, and I hope that Kotaku is the next to go. Kotaku provides nothing to the gaming industry. They refuse to cover games that are a little bit too political in their opinions, even though they won't cover them because of their own politics, which is just absurd. They don't really put up full guides anymore. All they do is put out articles like this where they try to bait people into clicking on them, but all it really ends up doing is getting them absolutely roasted on social media, and they should be ashamed for putting up more articles like this. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.